Ladies and gentlemen, I'm curious. How much would you be willing to pay for this bar of iron? A lot of you are probably looking at that and saying, Jason, you know what? Looks like a good paperweight to me. I'll give you a couple of dollars. And you'd be right. If you see this as a paperweight, it's probably worth only a couple of dollars. Now, a few of you out there might understand a few things about metal. And you might recognize that, you know what? This is iron. And if we melt it down a little bit, we pound it out, we could be able to make a couple of horseshoes out of this piece of iron, and you could sell a horseshoe for about $50 a piece. So maybe they'd give you a $50, $100 or so for this piece of iron. Yet, there's also a very select few that might even see more value in this bar than the others. And these are the individuals that recognize if we melted this out, if we refined all the impurities out of the bar of iron and turned it into steel, and we took the molten steel and cast it into small little mainsprings that you can find in high-end luxury watches, well then, this bar easily could be worth $250,000. Do I have any takers? Anybody want to buy this for $250,000? You're probably saying no because you don't see the value in this bar. Interestingly, when we think about people, the same thing happens. We make judgments based upon the value that we see in them, and therefore we treat them according to those judgments. Some people in our life are worth a couple of dollars according to our value system. Others maybe 50 or 100, and a very select few perhaps $250,000. My challenge to each of you is, why can't we see everybody as $250,000? Why can't we see the total value or potential in every single person that we come across? I believe that the way of peace and prosperity in this nation and across the entire world is doing just that. We have to stop making value judgments upon people based upon inaccurate or incomplete information and start seeing the value that really does lie behind each and every one of them. We have to imagine and see every individual as a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, I'm not saying that's easy to do. In fact, it's pretty complicated and pretty hard for us to do. I recall there was a training that I was at a couple of years ago over in Michigan. I was working with a bunch of FedEx people. And one of the guys was listening to me tell the story. And he says, Jason, you don't get it. I've got this coworker named Bob. And he's a 3. I tell you, I've been working with him for 25 years. He is a 3. And I turned and looked at him and said, sir, would you be willing to try an experiment for me? And then he said, yes. And I said, when you go back to the warehouse tomorrow, could you try to find evidence that would prove to you that he's actually a 4? Begrudgingly, he agreed to that commitment, and I left from Michigan and came back home. Didn't hear anything from him for a long time. And then about 2.5 months later, I got a random email from the guy. And he wrote in and it says, hey, Jason, guess what? Bob's not just a 4, he's a 5. And that's what happens. When we start to look for more value within the individual, we will find that more value. One of my favorite philosophers, Johann Wolfgang van Goethe, said this. He said, treat a man as he appears to be, and you will make him worse. But treat a man as if he already were what he potentially could be, and you will make him what he should be. Love that quote. Because it means that when we see people, so when we see value in people, high value in people, we would treat them accordingly. And whether or not their life is currently at that value point, they will rise to it. So that's my challenge to each and every one of you. How many people can we start to ease up on and to see more of a value on each of their heads? Hopefully, getting to the place where we see a 10 on everybody that we interact with every single day.